Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So greetings from Govardhan. Somehow this year it's exceptionally humid and it's a different type of heat. And as I explained many times, there is an intensity here. There's an intensity here in Vrindavan that it's like I gave this analogy, and it's nice to make up analogies, just like there's a stream that is flowing very, very fast, and the wind is blowing in that direction. If you're going in that direction, then the stream and the water are a very, very pleasant thing. And that's what I think people experience when they come here to the Dham, when they come on a retreat, and we move in a very balanced but blissful way in the direction of devotion. You feel that it's just the most pleasant, blissful place that one could be. But if you turn towards false ego, which is, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. And we know what that is. It's our anxieties, it's our ambitions, it's our self-centeredness, which we're trying to overcome in this world. So when we go on retreats, we can Chure Vritani Haritoshanani, we can make that vow only for Krishna. But sometimes when you decide, okay, I'm going to live here for some time like I do, it's very intense because you got to keep up that energy. You can't sink back into what our normal life is, which is parts of the day for Krishna and part of our mind for Krishna. But that somehow doesn't work here. And Krishna always tests you. I see when people make a commitment, that's why even though so many people have so many ecstatic experiences in the Dham, very, very few people can really live here for long periods of time. They wind up going. Why? Because Krishna will ask you the question, are you here for me or are you here for yourself? Are you here to serve the center or you're here to be the center? And if you casually say, no, I'm here to serve you, I'm here to be the center, and the center means I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, then in many ways, the world moves against your will. I'll just give you an example today. I was hanging my clothes neatly outside the line, and then the line snapped. Then I went in to take a shower and the tank upstairs burst. But if you're here for Krishna, what does that matter? But if you're here for yourself, then your comforts, and then, why do we have, we have that's why I see when people get a very beautiful place in the Dham, they very rarely stay. I've seen that. They very, very rarely stay, because when you get a place, it really gives you the consciousness, that this is for me. So it's kind of a challenge here sometimes to stay. And then and you up the ante, because each place in the Dham, each place in the spiritual world is more and more intensely for Krishna, in terms of the intensity of love and the intensity of that energy. So it's kind of a challenge in many, many ways to keep on that. And therefore, what I'm doing this year to just try to even that keel is I'm walking around half every day. I haven't done that in a long while, but every morning I walk around half of Govardhan, 2.5 hours, keep that pace, just to even keel. Now, today is a little bit of a different day than I normally do, because I have a class here at 5:30, which is approximately 18 minutes. So what I normally start now, I'm going to start at that time when everybody comes, because I started teaching the same thing, and that is Uddhava going to Vrindavan. And the part that we're up to is very, very high subject matter. And the higher the subject matter, almost the more difficult it is for us to accommodate, because we're talking about the love of the gopīs. And for me also, to actually communicate properly, this is just pure rasa. There's not much philosophical content. It's pure rasa. And what the rasa is, and what we all have to understand, the common thread when we read this, and we have to understand that even Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, more intimate parts of the relationship with Radha and Krishna, etc., he wouldn't even have discussions about it. When they would read the Chaitanya Charitamrita during Kartik, he would just read the verses. He would just read the verses and not even allow discussion, because of the concept of what I would call spiritual prejudice. And what prejudice is you judge something not for what it is, but you prejudge it based on a previous experience that you have generalized that doesn't apply. Like a prejudice, a lady has a problem with the father, and then maybe she projects that on men, on all men, or a man has a problem with the mother, he may project that on all women. Although all women are not the same and all men are not the same. And that happens with ethnicity. You grow up in a particular experience with some ethnicity, and then you meet that type of person, and you judge them, you prejudge them based on an experience that you've generalized that no longer applies. So that's always the danger with actually coming to Krishna's pastimes, that we prejudge it based on our experience with something which we generalize. So our experience, what? Boy and girl. What's our experience with boy and girl? it's a material intensity of really wanting to eke out pleasure from our partner. So we generalize that. That's what boy and girl is. So then when you hear about Radha and Krishna, you see it and understand it, you prejudge it not for what it is, but you judge it based on your previous experience. And therefore, you nourish your previous experience rather than what's actually happening, which is the most intense form of love of Godhead. Actually, the other day, it was really nice. Burijan Prabhu took me to his retreat center. And it's really amazing. I remember I was at the New York, and it'll relate to this. I was at the New York Rath Yatra and 2 years ago, and the Guranga came to me, Guranga Das from Chopati, and he said, I can't believe that Burijan has done this. And what is it? You walk on this land, they have 20 acres. They have 20 acres in Govardhan. They have 100 rooms. They're building a pavilion, maybe for 500 to 1,000 people. They have bhajan kutirs. It's a very nice concept. They have 2 rules for their bhajan kutirs, which have basements. 1, no cell phones or any electronic things allowed, and no one else in the room besides you. And you can book it for 3 hours, for 6 hours. But Burijan was joking. It's funny, Guranga Das in an affection way. I don't know, Burijan is kind of from my culture. We're not very, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm not very refined with my clothes. Like, it's just simple. And Guranga Das was joking when he first came there. This is really instructive. When he first came there, he looked at this land, and he looked at Burijan and Sachinandana Swami, who are basically sadhakas and scholars. And he said to Burijan, you can't even put on a dhoti. How are you going to build this place? And, Burijan realized how you build that place. How you build the place. You don't build the place. Giriraj builds the place. And he doesn't build the place for you. He builds it if you have an intent to please him. So that was Burijan's focus in mind, even to the extent that he won't have a room of his own in the place. And he gave the example. I think he gave a very, very potent and beautiful example that there's a saint in Vrindavan named Ramesh Baba. And Ramesh Baba has 30,000 cows. And he has the head of a Goshala that won't take one drop of milk because he doesn't want to be his service motivated. So that kind of consciousness, that's the consciousness that built the center. Because only Giriraj could do it. But anyway, there was a friend of mine, not a friend, the person in Colombia I work with that's building our retreat center, and Burijan's very kind with him. So he said, well, I'll show you what we're doing. But first we went to the side of Govardhan Hill. There's a beautiful place where they used to have their initial retreats. And Burijan said, well, okay, he said to me, you speak Krishna-katha. And we began speaking. And when we got to this pastime of Uddhava, me and Burijan had simultaneously the realization because these feelings are just so deep and so high. It's the disappointed lover. And Kachit, this gopi, the disappointed lover. It's not material. But it's not born. It's born from this high feeling of love, and we have material conceptions of this that don't fit, and we tend to be anthropomorphic. We see God through our experiences in this world. Therefore, I'm honestly speaking, I don't know how much longer I'm going to speak on this pastime. Maybe I'll finish it up in 1 or 2 days. But the common thread that we have to understand is an intensity of emotion that is pure selfless love. It's only kama rup. Rupa Goswami, it's the form of lust as we know it in this world, but only the form. It's not the consciousness of lust. But we can only project it in that way, or project it in some type of material. This disappointment. But what's the common thread? The common thread that we see it through is it's showing us what real love is. Not just an action, but an action that is the form of an emotion. And that's what Srimati Radharani is. She's a form, that's the manifestation of an emotion. It's not like there was an emotion and then there was a form, but it's described like that. She's Mahabhav Swarup. So we actually see what is this intensity of love that is that and just see how the Bhagavatam is constructed, that humbles someone who is, literally speaking, the most learned, intelligent, devoted person in the universe, which is Uddhava, and that's no exaggeration. And it's not a coincidence that in Krishna's pastimes, this type of person has to be humbled. Because if the topmost person is humbled, then how great is it? How great is this love? And we are in a horrible, horrible. I went to see Bhakti Vigyan Goswami, what a saint. And he took me to his land with the 4,000 trees planted and 6 acres in Govardhan and Bhajan Kutirs of the 6 Goswami. But of course I took lunch with him and we couldn't help but speak about the condition of the world. He was about, actually, he already bought tickets to go to Ukraine for a retreat in the mountains. He's kind of advised against it by one mystic yogi that I know. So he's contemplating it. He's contemplating it. But the condition of the, and I've been meditating on it because I write a Monday morning greetings every week. And I don't want to, I'm thinking of writing a Monday morning greetings about the apocalypse. Just the meditation that to destroy what is there will be painful. Even not being able to do this technology, who knows what's going to happen? It's all in Krishna's hands, and that is our faith. Our faith is not a blade of grass moves by Krishna's will, and Krishna does what is best. And what is best is dukkhalayam avishashpratam, that this world is suffering and temporary. And the only way to be happy is to switch, and this is so difficult, switch our concept of pleasure from objects to consciousness, from control to service. And we won't do that if we have choice to make. We're going to choose controller and enjoyer. Unless there's some challenges in our life, we are going to choose controller and enjoyer. So Krishna makes the world such that makes our choice easier to choose the right thing when you can't be the controller and enjoyer. And everything, if everything goes right and the world goes back to the way it is, and and there's no inflation, and we have the technology, and we can stuff our refrigerator with as much food as we want, and we can, as my godbrother Sridhar Maharaj said, he used to carry a briefcase, and he had a sticker, and it said, "Life is tough, and then you die." Deha patya kali tradishu atma sanyeshva satsvapi tesham pashanapi napashyate. We see, but we don't see. The infallibility of everything in this world to give us shelter and protection. We see the fallibility of everything to give us shelter and protection. And faith means whatever Krishna does is best, because he is focused on our consciousness and our soul. He can protect the body for the purpose of the soul, but the priority is the soul. And that's why we sometimes question God's mercy. We sometimes question God's mercy because our standard of happiness is the body, not the soul, which is not a standard of happiness because it's superficial, it's disconnected from love. Or we use the body in connection with love. We use the body to keep it together for the purpose of love, which is why when you attain bhava, your body still goes. The karma, yeah, come on in. Great. Thank you all. Yeah, turn on the light. Come in here, turn on the light, put in the chairs. There will be other people coming. I've actually started my class for the other people, and then when the other people all come, I'll start the next, but you can come and sit down. It's nice to have people here. Jagannath Priya, I'm thinking windows open and more air somehow.
Yeah.
Will be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, just set up the room. So now I have, thank you. Nice to see everybody coming. There are going to be more people here, so let's set it up, and some will need chairs more than others. So the chairs should be more in the back, and people can sit more in the front. Okay. Jagannath Priya, move that chair back. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sit. Yeah, sit here. Ramachar, you sit right here. Okay. You can sit on a chair, and if people come then. You're over 40, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
sit.
allowed.
What's that?
I'm allowed.
Okay, sit over there. Yeah, come sit. Thank you for coming. It's actually quite nice. I thought no one would come and the room was packed, so that's nice. Okay, so I started with the other class. Now when everybody else comes, I'm going to shift. So yeah, so our only hope in this world is to become inspired by love as our goal. And that's what the whole Bhagavatam is about. There must be another light that goes on. The second one goes on. Yeah, okay. That's our only hope. Our salvation is changing our faith. And faith is our goal. Faith is what our goal is. We have to change our goal. And our goal has to be love. And love is such a tough thing for the material world because we don't come here for love. We come here for control and enjoyment. Our body is given for that purpose. Our bodies are not given for love. Our bodies are given for control. That's what karma is. It gives you a different flavor. It gives you a different flavor of control. And so many different varieties of control. So it's this shift. And again, when we went with Borijan, we were sitting by the most beautiful place of Govardhan. It's really clear when you become advanced, you realize that. You realize that it has to be, we have to come to the point of anya bilashita shunyam. Anya bilashitam shunyam. No desires. It doesn't mean desires, because we have desires. If you have to go to the bathroom and you desire to go to the bathroom, it's not against pure devotional service. If you desire your to save your life, it's not against devotional service. You desire to love if you love your child and your mother, it's not against devotional service. It's when, what is that verse? Kamesya nendriya pritir. You have to realize that the purpose, Haribo, yeah, come on in. Yeah, just move the chairs, sit on the chairs. What happened is I have another class and I'm trying to juggle it so it merges into this class, and I'm going as long as I can to this one, and then I'll shift and then we'll both be in the next one. But what I've been talking about is, the state of the world in relationship to the Brahma Gita. and the Brahma Gita, that's the song of the bumblebee. Radharani talking to the bumblebee. My favorite line, it's my favorite line in all of the books, where Radharani looks at the bumblebee and says, "You are the unreliable servant of an unreliable master." You remember Bhuvaneshwar? I don't know if you know, there's one devotee, he passed away, but he had a real good sense of humor and is a bit like sarcastic. So I remember one time a Kinchana Krishna came in, who's my disciple, used to serve him. And he looked at him, he said, "You are the unreliable servant of an unreliable master." So anyway, that's my inspiration. Now we will go on to the Brahma Gita, what we're studying, and we'll all kind of be on the same page now. But because this class has started a little bit later, usually I'm really kind of fixed on my times because I like people to have schedules. So I don't go into ecstasies and forget time. And so this class will be 5:30 to 6:30 every day. But in America, it's 5 to 6. So those of you who want to leave I'm talking to people not here, but by Zoom, on the regular time, you can leave at the regular time. And what I really enjoy about my class at the end, everybody says hello and we get this sense of community. So maybe let me do one thing right now. Let the people that are here, if anyone wants to say hello, let's say hello now, and then I'll continue my class. And if you want to continue, you can. Is that okay? Because I usually do that. Jamuna Jaya, are you there?
Yes, Maharaj, I'm here. Hare Krishna.
Okay. What point did you remember? What reflection?
So far, I really love the points about you were saying about the relationship between the soul and the body, about how to maintain the body to serve the soul, that there is an importance in maintaining the body, but it's to serve the soul. And then I loved what you said, the pastimes are the form of lust, but not the consciousness of lust. I love that point so much.
Yeah, Rupa Goswami says it's kama root. It's like the form, the highest thing is the form. And why is the form of lust? Is because the intensity is most there in that relationship. But the consciousness in the spiritual world is not for me. It's to please Krishna. But so that's the adiras. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else just want to say hello and then I'll continue a few more people?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Shri Rupa.
Hey, Shri Rupa, Haribo. Coming to Govardhan?
I'm trying.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you may come in like December. Okay. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Henry.
Henry.
Haribo. Thank you for inviting me to this morning class. It's wonderful to be here and I like that you mentioned Bhubaneswar. I had an interesting interaction with him over the years, that devotee.
Thank you for being so polite. Okay. Henry, used to live. Somebody is reverbing. He used to live in his house. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This is Divya Shakti.
Oh, thank you so much for joining. Great.
I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come here. It's very inspiring, yet I understand that it's not my level at the point, and the goal of life is love, but where is love and where am I? It's not comparable at the moment. So let me aspire. Hare Krishna.
We have to have a goal. In the Bhagavatam, it says we have to have a goal, but we shouldn't feel guilty. We should just feel humble. And humble means we have the goal and we're not there, and we move towards the goal. And the goal is really something special. And therefore in the Bhagavatam, it's in the Upadeshamrita, it says, Utsahan nistiyat daryat. It says we should be patient. And what patience means is that we value the goal so much that if we're not attaining it, it's kind of an appreciation of how high it is. And the story that's given in the Bhagavatam on the CC of Mukunda, the Lord Chaitanya said, I will not see you for 1,000,000 births. And then finally he said, he was so happy. And then he got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, because that showed his faith, his faith that this is such a high goal. And therefore, one of the symptoms of advanced consciousness is called ashabandha. Our hope cannot be bound. And why can our hope not be bound? That even though, if we really understand Krishna, we understand what God is, we understand what prema is, it's so high. But one of the qualities of God is mercy. So mercy means undeserved kindness. So we always feel that when we have that consciousness, that this goal is so high and I'm not qualified, we get this little hope that maybe, Krishna will see us like knocking. It's like trying to get into a room that's locked from the other side, and you can't possibly get in unless someone opens the door. But because you're in need, and you're in the rain, and you're cold, and you're suffering, and that voice comes into your entreaty, you develop this hope. And that's better than actually thinking like, I've attained something. And there's one story about Sridhar Maharaj that's really interesting. Sridhar Prabhupada's godbrother tells this, that there were two brahmacharis, and they raised their hands, and one said, I've been chanting for 10 years and I don't feel anything. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, good, and walked out. Because that's so much better than saying Radhe, Radhe, like immediately, Radhe, Radhe, I've attained it. Yeah, I was just thinking, I wrote something in my Monday morning greetings, is that look at our births, look at our unwholesome activities, and how do we come to the Dham? How do we chant Hare Krishna? It's just, I remember Giriraj Swami many, many years ago, could be 30 years ago, he was getting kicked out of India because he was preaching in Pakistan. And his Prabhupada Desh was Mumbai, but he was going to Pakistan. So the Indian government became suspicious because the Americans were like siding with Pakistan, so they kicked him out. So he came to Vrindavan first. And then he has this memory. It's a kind of like, there's a type of writing where people have a mind where they can go back 30 years and describe every single detail. It's a genre. And he has that memory with Prabhupada. With some people that are with Prabhupada, they have like 3 stories they remember. It's so hard to remember so far back. He would remember like we had a big feast at the Goshala. There was this Bengali couple, and we had, he invited us, and it was like amazing. And Giriraj Swami looked at me and said, Prabhupada said, a third-class devotee eats a lot of prasadam and goes to sleep. A second-class devotee takes very, very little. And a first-class devotee eats a lot of prasadam and serves Krishna. So he was telling me one story after another, and I just said, how do you got so much association from Prabhupada, you got so much mercy from Prabhupada. How did you get so much mercy from Prabhupada? He said, I'm just a mercy case. It's just making yourself. We know who we love. We love people who sacrifice and give themselves selflessly. That's just the way consciousness works. Why is Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhuta? He understood the mind of Lord Chaitanya. How do you understand someone's mind? Only if they reveal it to you. And why would you give your mind to someone? Only if you trusted that they love you. And how would you know that they love you? That they demonstrate it in service. Bhakti is best expressed in seva, which means loving responsiveness to the Lord through the faculties of the mind, body, and soul. Seva is the most important thing. Seva is the most important thing because it's the manifestation of love. And Krishna sees that seva. Anyway, we're all in the same boat. Krishna gets us one way or another. It's really a time where you have to take shelter, everyone. He gets everyone in one way or another. If he doesn't get you in this, he gets you in that. Yeah, okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. It's really nice to see you here. Okay, anybody else like this? Shyam Sundari, what happened is I actually realized my other class is at, so I divided in two, and then in 2 minutes, I'm gonna start but anybody else, one or two more people say hello, and then I'll start the other class. Don't be shy.
Thank you, Maharaj.
All right,
Thank you very much for the class.
who is it?
Yavat Sundari.
Yavat Sundari. You know, Yavat Sundari, she took initiation here. She's from Iran. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very
Who
much,
else?
Maharaj.
Who will say hello? One more person.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj.
Okay, Haribo. Okay, we're going to start the next part, which is really, I don't know. I was speaking to them at Bhakti Siddhanta. I was speaking that there's a reason that Bhakti Siddhanta, when these, like the parts in Ramananda's Samvad, where Radha Krishna's love is described, during Kartik, they would read through the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, but they wouldn't discuss these things. And his conservatism was based on a principle of psychology, which I called spiritual prejudice. And I was explaining to them that what prejudice means is that you have an experience with someone and you generalize it. Like you may have an experience with some ethnicity and you generalize it. All Russians are like this, all Americans like this, all men are like this, all blacks are like this, all whites are like this, all Jews are like, and you generalize it. And then when you meet someone of that category, you don't judge them for what they are. You judge them upon the generalization you make that doesn't actually fit. And the concern is that we prejudge Krishna's pastimes based on our experience with similar forms that have very different consciousness. But we apply that consciousness to those forms. So I describe, what is it? The forms of the gopīs are called kamarup. It's the form of what we know as lust, but the consciousness is so much different. And that's why it's really nice to come to Vrindavan, because when you go to Vrindavan and you walk around Govardhan Hill and you have these experiences, it's definitely helpful to get some of that, like get a little drop of the bhav, so that you almost have a slight chance of hearing about these things and maybe seeing that consciousness. So let me Let me just find out a place where I can begin. Shamsundra, I heard that Vikram came to me. He said you had an ecstatic visit and showed me these incredible Instagram photos of you in Mahabharata. What? But it's interesting, right? Going to these, you get a flavor when you go into the village. It's amazing. Okay, so, all right, I'll try my best here. Reading from Canto 10, Chapter 47, Text 22. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Śrī-śuka uvāca. Athoddhavo niśamyaivaṁ. Krishna-darśana-lālasāḥ. Sāntvayan priya-sandeśair. Gopīr idam abhāṣata. Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, having heard this, Uddhava then tried to pacify the gopīs who were most eager to see Krishna. He thus began relating to them the message of their beloved. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana-shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam yena Tasmai Śrī-Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have this interesting story or history where Krishna has to choose someone to relieve the separation of his devotees. And we even yesterday discussed this interesting point where, and Shamsundar, you asked that question, and then somehow Borijan, I think it comes from Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu is an elaboration on the pastimes. And Jiva Goswami's mind went right there. Well, why is Uddhava is spending the whole night, actually spend the whole night trying to convince Nanda Maharaj that Krishna was the super soul. The whole night, because it only ends when he's doing this so intensely because it's his service. And we advance in Krishna consciousness. This is also, it's nice being with Buri Jampu. He's very advanced and, he just said it's all concentration. The reason why we're not advanced is because we can't focus, we can't concentrate. And that's why he also shared with me that our taste in Krishna consciousness is the door to the spiritual world. Whatever it is, whether it's chanting, or it's the Bhagavatam, or whether it's humble service, it's that focus and concentration. That's where the taste is. And we're so distracted because of all our samskaras and our ambitions, our desires, and the mistakes we make, and then trying to relieve the mistakes we make. it's so so why so he's spent so he and all of a sudden then it's the night and he doesn't even realize what's happening. He's so concentrated, focused on this service. And then the answer was really nice, that Krishna especially told him pretty in relation to his father, please my father, which means save my father. And Uddhava realized that his separation was so painful. And I've seen this in the world. I've seen, in terms of my grandparents' generation, where the husband would die and the wife would die right after. Relationships like that, it's just. So he really thought, they both thought, that my parents can leave their body. It's just, the mind is so connected to the body. I remember one time there was this girl from America, and she wasn't like an elevated devotee, and if she wound up in Vrindavan, she was taking drugs. So many things happened. And her best friend sacrificed everything to be with her. And then I somehow flew to India, because that was my disciple taking care of her, and they asked me to help come, and it was the middle of the summer. And I was in my room, and then someone knocked on the door and said, she's leaving now. Amazing story. How Krishna's mercy was there. So I came in, and then the lady that was taking care of me was very forceful and just looked at me and ordered me, do kirtan. And I started chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. And then the girl taking care of her called the parents and said she's leaving now, and then came back, got on her bed, looked her in the eyes, and said, your parents said they love you, you can leave now. And said, what will you cook for Krishna? And she named her favorite preparations. Will you cook halava? Will you cook sweet rice? What will you do for Krishna? And she left. So there's something with the will to live and actually living. So Nanda Maharaj was, so what he's trying to do is, by preaching Aishwarya Gyan, reducing the prema, because there's less forceful love in worshiping God as God than worshiping God as your son. And that's specifically why Krishna came and what Lord Chaitanya came to give, because he said that when there is reverence, and I don't take this lightly, I mean, I should only be so lucky to have that kind of prema, in Vaikuntha. But technically speaking, when the object of your love is superior, there's distance, there's fear, because you could, you have this etiquette, there's distance, and there's distance, there's fear. There's one other thing, but somehow it's not as forceful. So he's thinking, if I can convince him that he's God, it's the exact opposite of Lord Chaitanya. He wanted this love made feeble by this conception of superiority, right? I want to give this raganuga bhakti where it's spontaneous love. There's no distance. There's no fear. Mother Yasoda even ties up Krishna. The gopis rebuke Krishna. The friends jump on Krishna's back. But it's the opposite. He wants to do this. So Uddhava is there and he sees. He's coming and he's just seeing this love. But who is Uddhava? So there's two things that happen. He's the most qualified to pacify them because he's the most intelligent person in the world. He's the most learned person in the world. outside of Vrindavan, he's Dayasya, Sakya, Krishna. He is beloved friend of Krishna. And he's expert psychologist because he's the top mantri or the top advisor. So he has he's the top person. So he's the most qualified to do this. And by being humbled, by seeing their love, he's the best person to demonstrate that this love is the highest thing. Because he's the topmost devotee and the most qualified. In other words, the most learned person says, I'm nothing compared to this. The most intelligent person says, I'm nothing compared to this. The most beloved of Krishna says, I'm nothing compared to this. And the best advisor says, I'm nothing compared to this. And that's just the parents. And then you have the thing that Mother Yasoda, she's in such a state, because at least Nanda Maharaj, this is, a little bit more spiritual right brain, not completely overcome by emotion, but really emotional. His prema can't come down, but he still has the conception. This is a guest. He doesn't wash the feet because he's elder, but he gets someone to wash his feet. They greet Mother Yasoda. It's unbelievable. She doesn't even greet the guest. I had these devotees that live in Mayapur. You got to meet them once. They walked. Did I ever tell you about this? They walked from France 3 years ago, just before COVID. They walked from France to India without any money to learn faith in God. And they were not ordinary people. His father was a devout Catholic and a philosophy professor, and he was kind of a spiritual rebel. And his wife, which was so educated and beautiful, educated, and somehow in France, which is America is more with God than Europe. And France is the only country where Prabhupada got on the seat, they wanted to attack him when he sat on the Vyasa side. Hey, why are you sitting on that seat? But somehow this beautiful girl who's graduated from college with psychology, was already highly placed, very delicate, she would join him and also walk. And they walked through Iran. And when they walked to a house, the culture was that Allah is coming to our door, and they gave them food. So what's being Mother Yasoda doesn't greet them, then goes to the gopīs, and then it says Kachit, this gopi, and Jiva Goswami said it has to be Radha, because this gopi speaks to a bee as the bee is the messenger of Krishna, which is complete illusion. It's just, it's just, and this is described as Divyanmada, divine madness. The highest level of prema is when Krishna is not there, you see Krishna, or when Krishna is there, you don't see Krishna. And then it starts talking to the bee as a disappointed lover, and just there's 10 verses, and it's Jolpa, Prati Jolpa, and this Jolpa, and this talk. Jolpa means talking and criticizing, and then at the end feeling sorry and becoming humble, and it's all these emotions. And Uddhava is just looking, because you come from Dwarka and people love Krishna, but they don't see Krishna when Krishna is not there, and they don't not see Krishna when Krishna is there. So this is unprecedented. And then what happens, having heard this, then Uddhava said, I have to somehow pacify them. Of these gopis. And then, the words are, if you know just a little bit of the Sanskrit, lalasa, like we have that the thing Lalasa-mayi Prarthana. Moranga bolite habe pulaka sarira hari hari bolite nayane babenira ara kabenitai chander karuna hoibe. You have these songs. Lalasa-mayi means this hankering. So here it says, who are Krishna-darśana-lālasāḥ, Krishna's sight of Krishna. They're hankering for the sight of Krishna. And therefore, when they see this Uddhava, who's Krishna's cousin brother, has a similar form, and he's wearing Krishna's dhoti, and they see that golden chariot, and they just like, they lose their shame and they start crying, even though why? And they what are they crying? They're crying the pastimes of Krishna. They're completely oblivious socially, and he's watching this. And so he sees them, and sāntvayan, pacifying. He wants to pacify them. How? With the sandesh. Uddhava sandesh, he gives a, sandesh means his instructions, his messages. And what messages? Priya. Sāntvayan, pacifying them with messages from their beloved. So at least they'll get, this is what Krishna is saying to you. And I'm still trying to figure it out, because it's when the gopīs came and left their homes, then Krishna initially preached karma yoga, be good wives, go back to you've seen enough, and then you see, go back to your husbands, one ashram. Now he's going to preach jnana. And I think this is just to kind of, it's not jnana. It seems like jnana, but because when he's talking about Krishna being in their heart, he's actually kind of convincing them of one of the main messages of Krishna consciousness, is that our separation from Krishna is our consciousness. It's our bodies may be here, but your minds were already with me. And my mind is with you. We're separated by consciousness. And that was actually, it was interesting, the wives of the Brahmins, when the wives of the Brahmins came, the one who achieved perfection is the one who was kept back. Not the people that went there physically, it was the one that came back, because her consciousness was the most intense. So this is kind of our solace, that we're separated from God by consciousness. And I think this is Lord Chaitanya's example. Vipralamba Bhav in Puri, he's Acharya Lila. He's showing us how to practice. And how does he practice? He practices in the mood of separation. Because in the mood of separation, and Uddhava is going to explain this, the mood of separation, the object that is before you goes into your heart. And when it's with Krishna, it's actually Krishna going in your heart. So it's somehow become, and the lok pramana, there's 10 pramanas evidence. The lok pramana is the lowest means of evidence, but it still kind of can be quoted. It's just not the most authoritative. The most authoritative is shabda or agama, verbal testimony, you hear from authority, then anuman, inference, and projection, direct perception. And in one sense, we can say even direct perception, in one sense, can even be the highest. But we say at least verbal testimony. So the 10th one is called lok praman, it's village talk. And what was the village talk? The village talk is, why did Krishna leave? He left after the pastime of Prem Sarovar, because when the bee was chased away, when the bee was chased away by Madhu Mangal, then the bee said, Madhu is gone, And Radharani, why not? She's in the highest emotional state. Why should Radharani, in the highest love, be on the platform of yukti or discrimination? If it's the highest love, she's not intellectually thinking, and she's very sensitive. So just hearing Madhu is gone, that was enough to just send her into this incredible mood of separation. Even though she's sitting on Krishna's lap, she's in separation from Krishna, and she's crying hysterically. And the Lok Pramana is, Krishna saw that I, who is outside of her, now are in her heart. And he's going to actually tell that to the gopis. I left also for this reason, to invoke this mood of separation, to increase your consciousness. So anyway, he saw Radharani talking to this bee, and this, he just thought, I have to pacify them. Okay, I'll do one more verse for today. Hey, now we're getting a nice cool breeze, right? I never saw it so humid here because of all the rain. Humidity has a certain extra. Like I look at the thing, this is the temperature and this is how you feel. I'm not going to have this, what is it called? Electrolytes. Because it's tasty. You can drink more water. But, okay, so this is what Uddhava says. Sri Uddhava uvāca, aho yuyam sma purnartha, bhavatyo loka pujita, vasudeve bhagavati, niśamyaivaṁ mana. Certainly, you gopis are all successful and are universally worshipped because you have dedicated your minds in this way to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. So I guess he's starting with just a little encouragement. It's a good thing. This is something really special. And you're honored for this because Arpitam, just like that verse, what is that verse? Anarpitam, what? Anarpitam charamcha, never before given. So this word arpitam, it means offered or given. So arpitam mana, you've offered your minds. If you offered your minds to Bhagavati, wait. Yeah, okay, yeah. You offered your minds to Vasudeva Bhagavati, and therefore, Pujita, Loka Pujita, by all people you worship, because you've offered your minds to Krishna. And that's what we respect, because we see where our minds can go. Ambition, ego, regret, pride, control, so many things we fight. Person just gives his mind to Krishna. That's that completely. And really, it's actually giving your mind to everyone, because who is Krishna? Vedanta tat no. Tattva Brahmeti Paramatma. No, I want the verse. It's another verse. It's what? No, it's the verse with Advayam Gyan.
Yeah, that's the verse.
Okay, Vedanti Tattva Jnanam Advayam. And Jnanam doesn't mean knowledge, it means consciousness. in Krishna's consciousness. Nothing is separate from Krishna's consciousness. So really, when you are dedicated to Krishna, you really are dedicated to everyone. It's the highest form of universal love. It's not that you worship God. There was one thing that one sadhu said that was so powerful. He said that if you go in the temple and you worship God, and then you go out and you insult people, then what it's like is, it's like having a relationship where publicly you're really nice to the person, but when you get together, you're nasty, right? You may be outside, the husband and wife, they may be really smiling, but inside they're nasty to each other. So it's nasty. It's not nice. It means nasty. So the same thing, if you're worshiping God in the temple, but you're not nice outside, it's not nice to God. So having heard this, and what he's really saying is, other people have actually surrendered to Krishna, but this is very unique what he's saying, because the absorption is unparalleled. And he's going to say that also, that this is very unique. And what's unique about it? First, what's unique about it is it's spontaneous. And spontaneous means there's no, when you worship the conception of God, there's some fear. You may do something wrong. There's an obligation. Whenever you deal with superiority, there's an obligation. And there's some distance. So even though it's so pure and so absorbing, it just is not as special when there's no obligation, when there's no distance, and when there's no fear. It's more forceful. And therefore Krishna came because he wanted that love, and he wanted to spread that love. He wasn't successful because he came as Lord Chaitanya to do that. So this is what's happening. So he says, you are all successful. You are Purna Artha. Purna means completely. Artha. Your Artha, your purpose is Purna. It's complete. It's complete. There's nothing missing. This is the highest love that you have. Okay, we have time for one more verse. We have 12 more minutes. And it's so nice that all the people who normally would go 19 minutes ago, they're all still here. So that's really good. And it's Wednesday. So this is actually the reason I have it Wednesday at 7:30, because 8:30, I mean, this is like, I think the people here, it's like Vrindavan. Like Vrindavan's a spiritual world because no one has a job. Isn't it strange? Every place else, everyone has to work. You come to Vrindavan, no one works, right? All the devotees, no one works. So I'm thinking now all these people are like from the spiritual world. I'm shocked they're still here, because I know they do have.
And it's morning in there.
No, this is, by now it's already past 8:30. It's 8:45. And I know what these people's jobs are. I'm looking at them. They should all be in work right now. So they've actually now become like the gopīs. There's like no care for social concerns or not. I'm pretty impressed, because I thought they will go, because normally I'm like that. I'm very rigid with time. It's my samskara. It's like that's why I like Sri Govinda. I'm out there at 5:29, and he's out there at 5:30 without fail. It's so now he's glorified. He says dana, vrata, tapo, homa, japa, swadhyaya, samyamai, Shreyobir Vividhais Chanyad Krishna Bhaktir Hisadyate. So Krishna Bhakti to Krishna is sadyate. It's realized. How is it realized? By charity, by strict vows, by austerities and fire sacrifices, by japa, study of Vedic texts, observance of regulative principles, and indeed the performance of many other practices. Vishwanath Chakravarti explains the process described here as follows. Dana, donations given to Lord Vishnu and his devotees. Vrata, observing vows, such as Ekadasi, tapas, renunciation of sense gratification for Krishna's sake. Homa, fire sacrifices dedicated to Vishnu. Japa, privately chanting the holy names of the Lord. Swadhyaya, study and recitation of Vedic texts such as Gopal, Tapani, Upanishads. So I guess, I don't know, I really have to enter into this, what he's doing. But he's somehow just explaining that. First saying that what your consciousness is now, it's the right consciousness. And it's the consciousness to actually achieve what you want. You want the direct association of Krishna. This is how you achieve it. You achieve it by this intensity of devotion. And then he says, by your great fortune, you have established an unexcelled standard of pure devotion for the Lord, Uttama Shloka, a standard even the sages can hardly attain, because it's spontaneous. And this is anarpita charim charat karunaya. It's never before given. We used to have this great, you ever met Dr. Fakir Mohan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd come to my Puri Yatra. I remember we take him to Tota Gopinath and he would sing, he was like this, amazing. But he would get these realizations and he said, never before given. I wish I recorded it. He gave like 10 reasons why what Lord Chaitanya never before was given. And I like these kind of sadhus that, what do you call it when it's like, it's just so much faith, but never before given. So this wasn't given. It's the same thing saying. Muninam. I think Muninam. Muni comes from Mauna or silence. Word Muni comes from Mauna or silence, because silence is a person is in the forest. We're in the forest, you're silent. The sages go to the forest because you're silent. If you go to Borijan's retreat center, they have these Bhajan Kutirs. And the rule is if you go there, you can't go with any cell phones or anything, and there cannot be any other person in the room. And Dr. Fakir Mohan also, I think he told Mother Srimati that bhajan means alone. People distract. It's alone. So even those people who are sages that are alone, they can't get this. It's so unique. Never before given. The spontaneous love, it's just, because it's so easily can be misunderstood as mundane. Okay, we'll just stop now for a second. Mukunda, any point that you remember that we just have 5 more minutes?
Oh, well, it's the points.
What?
Yeah, this last point is just, it's just drifting in my mind regarding this point about watching this role. One should have this experience. One should love this way of doing watching.
You could rent. You see, initially they were thinking they give it to people to live or something, but they said people can't do it. They'll go crazy in the four walls. You know what I'm saying? So he said at least they can rent 3 hours. Wouldn't it be that nice, Shamsundra? You go there for 3 hours and go in the cave. And then Sri Govinda will understand and realize what he should do in Colombia. Make a cave.
Actually,
What?
I want to have a cave. I
I
told Sri Govinda that
There should be a cave. There should be a cave. And
there's no distractions.
you can have you can have the same thing. People could rent out the cave, but no cell phone. Like let's someone and right? It'd be a challenge, right? You go there for 3 hours and this is priya-sandeśair yashashrupa kalabasmin yagajanaha manda sumanda matayoma. Why is it so distracting? And we're always disturbed. This whole world is meant to distract us. That's why I think Krishna may have to take it all down. He may have to destroy the internet. He may have to, because we're just so, concentration is so difficult. And we rob ourselves of that experience. You know, that's why I think Kartik, you can start Kartik tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
You can do it from Ekadasi to Ekadasi or from Purnima to Purnima. This year, because I just feel I want to start tomorrow. And it's so good. And it's called niśamyaivaṁ. It means regulated life. You know, like Jai Vaidamart said, Javi asked him, he said, what's your secret? He said, you know, I do the same thing every day. So that kind of sense, the same thing every day. And tradition in Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that was Chaturmasya. But for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they're preaching the sannyasis, but in Kartik, they just do the regular seva, right? The same thing every day, so they take different vows. So I think I'll start tomorrow, you know. Maybe this year I'll even give up sweets. And that's so hard in Vrindavan. You know what I'm saying? Yes, you know, like you bring me to offer the deities and those luglus, you know what I'm saying? With those, what? It's right. There's so many ways that I ate with Bhakti Vigyan Goswami. There was this kind of, I don't know, like maybe some kind of pudding halava, you know, it's just, it's.
It's with cashew and pistache, you know.
I'll have to compensate with beet, orange. They have that juice bar now, you know that. Anyway, something, you know, I just figure it's in the West, it's just not meant for tapasya. It's just not meant for tapasya. Here, it's like, I've been trying, I've been going around, and it's not easy. You know, it's 2.5 hour walk, and you're walking at a good pace. And then you get humbled because an old fat Punjabi will like speed by you, and you can't figure out how the hell is this guy? How the hell is this guy? And they're like walking, and then let's go ahead of him, right? And then we go ahead of him. It's like he's right behind us. How do they do it? Right? All the Brijvasis that walk, they have this pace, right? It's just amazing. Okay, so Shamsundri, any point that you took away?
I was thinking on what was Uddhava's like feelings or emotions when he sees the love of the gopīs so high. So I was wondering if he just glorifies that love they have, or does he felt any solidarity with Radha, seeing her so crazy for Krishna.
I mean, does he feel any like
Solidarity, like, like when the gopis, they found Radha alone crying, and they feel all solidarity with her, like, and they start crying with her.
Oh, that's it. So you're asking, does Uddhava feel compassion for them, or?
Yeah, any solidarity, and like also felt the pain of separation.
It seemed, it seems two things. It seems one, he definitely felt for them because his message was to pacify them. So already he had that. And then he tried to pacify them. So I'm sure he felt for them. But I think the most thing that he was overwhelmed with was just humility and, just kind of like a healthy, because his mood was, I thought I was a devotee, because outside of Vrindavan, they have this mood of reverence. Outside of Vrindavan have this mood of reverence. So they all, they have that sense of Krishna's divinity to some extent. But Uddhava has this special category of servant that's mixed with friendship. So he has like a special status of all the devotees. And he just thought, I thought I was a devotee, but when I saw this, my crushed to dust, and then developing reverence for the gopīs, that this is just so high that I just want to be dust in Vrindavan. I think, of course, he felt something, but I don't think he wanted that relationship, because that's not the way it worked. Okay, so we're having fun in Vrindavan. Now, I spoke to Bhaktivedanta Goswami, maybe they're going to go maybe after to Vinod Baba.
After, you mean
After Kadasi or something, but always Vikram probably can arrange if something doesn't go. And okay. All right, I'm just going to talk with these people here. Thank you all for coming. Couldn't hang around for a few minutes, okay? Okay, Haribo, anybody else want to say hello? I like to do this. It keeps like community there. Anybody
right.
else?
I wanted to say the reason I was able to stay around longer today, it's hey, Osham Sundara, Sri Govinda, your beautiful Anna from the ashram is in my Tuesday night community group at the Bhakti Center. And she was saying so last night that she so missed you so much, her heart is breaking. So she's so sweet. So I said that I might see her this week. And so I'm happy to see you. So she's so sweet. So good to see you. She's lovely. But I wanted to say, Maharaj, that today's Yom Kippur, so that's my morning was canceled because of that. So it's an auspicious day. It's Ekadasi and Yom Kippur that we're able to stay with you longer. But I just wanted to say this nudist separation, because we're studying Lord Chaitanya, the CC last night, and talking about Vripalampa, and you're talking about, the wives of the Brahmana, and the wife that stayed behind is the one that got liberation. Is always such a beautiful point, because I'm in such deep separation from where you guys are. So that's really hitting hard today. So thank you. Hi, everybody.
Okay. Manish, Lama Somaya Ko. All right. What? It's Yom Kippur. Wow. When Yom Kippur follows on Ekadasi, you get the benefit of Krishna's mercy and also of the Jewish God. That's good. What?
It starts tonight.
Wow. I'm going to follow Yom Kippur. I told my parents I'm kosher. I don't mix meat with milk. I follow Ekadasi. Okay. Anyone else want to say hello? One more?
Govinda, thank you for class.
Hey, Lal, Haribo.
Ball.
Say hello.
Hey, Haribo.
Lal is a pure devotee hairdresser, and he's not gay.
I know one of those things. I don't know about the pure devotee, but the other one, yeah.
Okay.
Haribol.
Man, okay. All right, I guess we'll go now. I see all the lists. It's so many nice people and they stayed the whole time. That's great. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. You can ask a question.
In the very beginning, you